This is the Sikkim Podcast. The Sikkim Podcast is a production of Baylor Athletics. Now, here are your hosts, Brooke Bednarz and the voice of the Bears, John Morris.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Sikkim Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. We're glad you're with us this week. Happy holidays to everyone. John Morris, Brooke Bednarz. Brooke, we're into December now, so we can say happy holidays. Covers Thanksgiving last week, Christmas coming up later in the week and later in the month, and happy holidays to everyone.
I wish it was later in the week. That I love Christmas, so I already have my lights up, and but yes, happy holidays to everyone. I know that we just wrapped up Thanksgiving and we're super thankful for a lot of things. And John, one of those is a very generous graduate and donor. I'll let you do the honors of introducing this one.
Very good. Thanks for that. It is the giving season, it is. And Baylor just keeps giving us wins, and we appreciate that. And we certainly appreciate Jeremy and Christy Fudge. And Jeremy Fudge is our guest on this week's Sikkim Podcast. Jeremy, welcome to you. We appreciate you being on with us.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
And happy holidays to you also.
You too.
Thanks very much. Hey, the announcement came a couple of weeks ago of you and Christy's most generous donation to Baylor through the Give Light campaign. And we have on the drawing boards now the Fudge Football Operations Center. Thank you for that, number one. And what was your thinking? What was your motivation behind this gift?
I think there's two levels of motivation, if you will. I think one is more of a generic answer, which is I had an executive pastor at our church a number of years ago, and he used to say, blessed to bless, meaning I've been blessed to bless others. That's why I'm blessed, is to enable, blessing others. So in that sense, that kind of guides our overall giving in general. I think specifically, we believe in Baylor. We believe in what it represents, the idea of Baylor. We believe in all facets of that, which is a lot of different angles, but including athletics. We believe in our current leadership, pretty much across the board, academic and athletic both, and the president, obviously. We are just very much aligned in our thinking about what Baylor represents. And to us, that is the idea of pursuing excellence as a form of your witness to the world of what a Christian should be and look like. And that you can have those two things, right? That for many years, there's been a debate about science, right? And faith, and that tension, and can you be a scientist, but also a Christian, and, that kind of stuff. And I feel like society's changed a lot in the last handful of years, even, where it's sort of like, can you be great at anything, period, and be a Christian? And the answer is resoundingly, yes, you can, right? And so I think it's for Christian it's very much that idea of, we want to support and be behind with our time and talent and treasure what Baylor is and represents in that sense. So that's maybe high level to next level, and then the specific level is knowing what our needs are within athletic department generally, and then football specifically, and knowing that when we have a team meeting for the football team, you can't even fit the whole team in the room, right? I mean, just basic things like that, right? Or different sports fighting for time just to lift weights, right? Things that are just, when you hear them, you sort of go, that's not right. There's a basic level we need to be at. And if we're going to truly try to be excellent in what we do, you got to get some of these basics right. So it's a wonderful, football operations center is a wonderful building. It's going to be an amazing thing, physically and technologically and everything else, but it's really like, it's a basic. We got to have this building block. So there's a long-winded answer.
I love it. That's what a podcast is for. When you think about, you talked about the basics and how this building is one of those. It's a building block. But to look at the success that Baylor Athletics has already had with the current situation in the current building, and sharing of time of weight rooms and things like that. And then to know that your name will be forever associated with helping this take it to the next step. A Big 12 championships, that game's right around the corner. We were just talking about tickets and John calling that game and things like that moving forward. But to know that you'll be a part and possibly even making that even more of a standard here when we talk about Dave Aranda's standard of performance and excellence. How excited are you to, be able to not just have your name up on the building, but to be a part of this team and this family moving forward in the years to come?
I mean, it's awesome to feel like you're part of it and that you're on the team, team generically, Baylor team. As someone who's not on the inside like you two are, for example, right? And so it's fun and it's exciting to feel like we're helping, we're contributing, we're part of this thing. Having the name on the building, honestly, like mortifies my entire family. Like, if they were choosing, they would have chosen not to do that, right? But I think that it's part of it, and certainly I think I had a really great father, and part of my upbringing under him was the idea of impact in the world and legacy that lives on beyond you and so forth. And so for me, it isn't a self-absorbed thing of like, ooh, look, my name's on the building, but versus like, it's cool to attach my name to what I think Baylor represents and to be thinking that's going to be there for a while, right? And so, I'm not quite as mortified as they are, maybe, but yeah, I mean, it's really cool, and it's an exciting time to be part of all of this at Baylor. If I was plugging, you guys didn't ask me to plug, just for the record, but like if I was plugging, there's a lot of people that are, my ages, I'm 46, but, hitting that kind of stride in their career, professionally, et cetera. And it's time, honestly, for some new people like me to come into the mix of supporting Baylor and being behind Baylor, right? And we appreciate, obviously, the McLeans and others that have been doing things for a long time for Baylor, right? But it is time for new people to get involved, and we're excited to be part of that new batch.
Yeah.
John, I remember a podcast we did last year where we talked about how much the landscape has changed. And I believe it was Doug Smith and his whole, and just seeing what Baylor used to look like and the athletic facilities that weren't there, and then to come back and to look now. And now I kind of feel like we're at the next step with this football facility, the Fudge Football Center, Operations Center, and then we also have the basketball pavilion that's named after the Fosters. But you have a conference room there for the men's team, which national champs, very exciting. And then even the Mark and Paula Hurd Welcome Center, that's kind of going to be the front door to Baylor. So it's exciting to be on the forefront of this, and like you said, to kind of, we're in that new wave, and have new generous donors like yourself, just is very exciting. So thank you.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, you know what that's like in this league, really in college athletics at this level. You either keep moving forward or you get run over, and part of moving forward is upgrades in facilities and new facilities, and giving our coaches and our administrators, what they need to be successful. Yeah. You are a huge part in making that happen for us.
Yeah, I think it's an important point, because as you saw in the last week, right, even just in college, right, like it's crazy out there what's going on, and the kind of things that are getting thrown around and happening. I do think Mac, our athletic director, is walking a really good, careful line of saying we have to do not bare minimums even. We gotta be competitive in these things, in these areas, facilities, whatever it might be. But at the same time, we are who we are, and we offer something unique, whether it's to coaches or whether it's to student athletes, either one. And I think that's, he had a interview yesterday that I saw the transcript on of, would we pay a coach $10 million or $12 million, right? And I don't know, maybe we would at some point, but like, maybe we wouldn't too, because there are trade-offs. And in my business, it's exactly the same way, right? We have trade-offs in terms of culture, in terms of, you guys are visually seeing me right now, but like I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt every day to work, right? In a law firm. Like that's a trade-off that I'll take in lieu of some income potentially, right? And so I think Baylor's similar in a sense, right? Like it isn't always about, we have lockers that light up and spray water out the top and do all this other stuff, right? Versus we've got a really, really great facility. And so I think part of this to me is, like I said at the beginning, we've got to get just over a bare minimum. Like we were dead last in terms of our football facility. And so we got to get that up to a bare minimum. Now, it doesn't have to do all these, amazing bells and whistles and whatever. It should do some, right? We got to be competitive, but we don't have to, and I'm saying all this in response a little bit to some comments I've heard since this became public, where people were sort of questioning, and you get used to this, but people were sort of questioning, like, why are we doing this? Do we really need this? And the answer is, yeah, we really need this, right? To just simply operate at a high level that we want to operate at, we need it. It isn't the extravagant, over the top, oh my gosh, why are we wasting money? It's not that level. It's just like, we got to get the team in one room. We got to be able to, we got to be able to have walkthroughs, in front of a big screen. That's a big thing for Dave that he had at LSU. And so I've forgotten what the question was.
No, you said it very well. Jeremy, you mentioned earlier about your dad. Tell us about your upbringing, your parents, and how'd you get to Baylor? What led you to Baylor?
That's a entertaining story. So, my dad, we don't have time for the whole story. There is actually a movie about my dad that you can watch on Amazon or other places, called Hell and Mr. Fudge. So there's a Cliff Note version. Go watch the movie. But my dad was, he was in seminary and planning to be a pastor. And then his father passed away unexpectedly. He moved back home to Alabama, which is where I was born. And, the really short version of this is, through a series of events, ended up working in a print shop, doing manual minimum wage job, manual labor of setting type the way they used to. And he's sort of sitting there going, what is going on, guy? Like, how am I here? I was in the seminary and now I'm here. And that leads to a point where he sees this ad for a Christian newspaper that's going to start in Houston, needs an editor-in-chief. And so he applies, gets the job. We moved to Houston. That was second grade for me, real young. And he says, why did I get this job? And the guy says, because you're the only person out of hundreds of applicants that had typesetting experience. And we thought that might come in handy in a pinch. And so just constant story of God opening doors like that for him in unexpected ways. And the paper goes out of business, 3 years later. And people at our church say, hey, maybe you ought to go to law school. You'd be a good lawyer. So he goes to law school at 40, works during the day, goes to school at night, supports the family that way. All the while, and so he's a lawyer until the end of his life, in essence. All the while, though, always doing Christian ministry on the side, speaking, writing, daily email ministry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really just great example in so many ways of so many things for me. Mom was a teacher growing up, and at one point in my life, he was my preacher in church, and she was my Sunday school teacher. So definitely raised in a godly Christian heritage, and shaped me and formed me into who I am. We grew up in the Church of Christ tradition, and so in the Deep South Church of Christ tradition, I should say, which is even different. And so the idea of Baptist or Baptist school would be unbelievable, right? So my grandparents, my dad, my sister all went to Abilene Christian Christ School. And so my senior year of high school, I had two good high school buddies, and they were going to go to Baylor. I didn't know anything about Baylor, had never visited Baylor, anything else, but I thought, you know what? They play in the Southwest Conference. It's big time athletics compared to ACU. And, that's pretty cool. And I like that. I think I want to be part of that more. And so literally because of that, I was like, I'll go to Baylor with you guys. And I visited, never did a tour, nothing. And so off I went to Baylor. My first day moving in Penland was my first day at Baylor. And so, that's how I ended up at Baylor, totally unexpectedly. And my parents weren't hardcore into like, oh my gosh, you can't go to a Baptist school or anything. But it was certainly sort of going a different route than the family had gone historically. So got to Baylor and just fell in love with it. My 4 years at Baylor had a massive impact on me as a person, as a leader, as a believer, all of it. So I'm grateful and appreciative of the opportunity I had to go. And, we didn't grow up with a whole lot of money. So like going to Baylor was a big stretch for my parents to even make it happen. And so.
Well, I think it's also neat. Your love for Baylor has expanded into your entire family to the point where your wife, Christy, who didn't even go to Baylor, she became an alumna by choice this year in 2021. How exciting is that for you and your family to have her, be an honorary Baylor Bear?
Yeah, it's been great. That whole process of that. I was able to surprise her with it, which was even more fun. We joke she went to the University of Northern Colorado, which are also the Bears, just a different breed of bear. So this was just sort of a slight tweak to her bearness, but it's been great. She came into it obviously not knowing Baylor at all and so forth, but has seen it now up close and been part of it for a number of years and has the same joy and appreciation about what we do and going to games and everything else that we do, right? And so that's been great. And then my kids are growing up Baylor fans and going to games and my oldest hasn't missed a football game since back at the old stadium. And so I'm hopeful that they will all end up at Baylor as well. I've got 4 girls.
Tell us about your daughters. What ages are they?
I've got a junior, a sophomore, a 6th grader, and a 1st grader. Right. So we've got all different phases of life and growth going on at the same time.
That is a crazy household right there.
It's a crazy household. It's fun though, having the different, right? So like my older ones I can go skiing with, right? Or something like that. Whereas, my middle schooler, I can, help her with doing she's very creative, doing a play or something, right? And then my 1st grader is just nuts, right? Keeping up with the bigger sisters and just precocious and fun and doing 1st grade level things. So we were trying to learn how to ride the bike over the holidays last week, and it's my last one to try to teach. It's very painful trying to teach a kid to ride a bike.
Well, that's fun, and I know that they'll remember that for a lifetime, all those fun memories, as will Baylor. Remember your generous donation, you and your wife, Christy, with not only the Fudge Football Operations Center, but those other rooms and things and the new projects that we mentioned. And it does do a wonder to take this program to the next level. We're already having a lot of success, and it's fun to follow and be a part of, but to know that the next chapter is right there and that you're helping lead that way. We're very, very grateful, and we will not forget that by any means. So thank you again from all of us here at Baylor Athletics for helping us take that next step.
Most welcome.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate your time. Great to visit with you. Thank you very much. Let's go win another Big 12 championship this week. How about that?
Absolutely. We'll see you guys on Saturday.
Jeremy, thank you very much. Jeremy Fudge, our guest on this week's Sick'em podcast, and we appreciate everyone that is tuned in today. And we do look forward to the Big 12 championship game, the Dr. Pepper Big 12 championship game, Saturday, 11 a.m. at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Thanks to Jeremy, and for Brooke Bednarz, I'm John Morris. That is this week's Sick'em podcast.
You've been listening to the Sick'em podcast. The Sick'em podcast has been a production of Baylor Athletics.